last course because we have studied fatigue in MM302. Remember what is low cycle fatigue? Gaurav, you should remember.
Yes, sir. Could you repeat?
Yeah, I can. What is low cycle fatigue?
So when the number of cycles are less,
Are low.
that leads to a fatigue of a
यही
material.
डेफिनेशन है ना, नाम से डेफिनेशन बना लेना है. और कुछ बताओ उसका कैरेक्टरिस्टिक. हाई साइकिल फटीग where cycles are high. क्या मेन डिफरेंस क्या है? व्हाट इज द मेजर डिफरेंस बिटवीन हाई साइकिल फटीग एंड लो साइकिल फटीग? गौरव, क्वेश्चन इज टू यू.
Yes, sir.
बताओ.
Sir,
बुक तो नहीं खोल रहा ना?
नहीं सर, बुक तो है ही नहीं सर.
बुक है ही नहीं.
मतलब फिजिकल वाली नहीं है, ऑनलाइन वाली.
फिजिकल वाली खोल के तो तुमको मिलेगा भी नहीं. उसमें कंट्रोल F नहीं चलता ना.
जी.
So, as I said in the last semester, in whatever course is going on, I hope you're following the books. Apart from lectures, you have to follow the textbook. If you don't follow it, then it is not good. You will realize later that I should have followed books. Book पढ़ना जरूरी है. Other things are also important. Because sometimes there is a very established concept and everyone follows the textbook, and it is not a very old concept. So let's say we studied about J integral in fraction in MM302 also. So J integral was derived in 1968, and I have also studied, and a lot of people older than me probably also in your generation. Your generation, I do not know if everyone is watching video lectures and not following books, but people follow textbooks and they accept what is written. And usually it is the mentality that whatever is written in the textbook, we get convinced without asking question. ये सही है, गलत है, गलत भी हो सकता है, but book में है तो सही होगा. This kind of approach we have. But if you read really the article which was written by the person who derived J integral in 1968, it is freely available, and you will see that you will get a different thing from that article. You will understand in a different way, because एक बार जो discover हो गया उसको reinterpret किया जाता है कई बार, and then people who write book they write the most famous ways or the most probably easier ways or different ways of explaining the same concept. And usually in those days, I think in 60s and 70s, there was a lot of innovation going on in technology and science field, but also in our field, in materials field. If you see some of the papers are really good. So they are like people from polymath. So for example, we also spoke about strain rate effect on tensile behavior, and there was an article from I think Zener Holomon, and that article represents the equivalence between the effect, what happens because of the change in strain rate. So if you change the strain rate, it is similar to as if you are decreasing the temperature. And for that, he has done a very nice experiment, very basic, very nice experiment with instrumentation which requires the knowledge of electric circuits and all. And so in those days, so experiments, not like there is a commercial machine and that is available, and they did experiments on that. They made their own machines to find out what they want to find out, and also did the instrumentation, not only in material part, also in other fields, there were these kind of experiments going on. So that's the that's the essence of doing experiments. You might have seen that movie, Imitation Games. Has anyone seen it?
Yes sir.
कौन बोला ये? श्रीश?
Yes sir. सर उसमें जो डिकोड करते हैं ना,
हाँ, क्या नाम था उस मशीन का?
सर एनिग्मा मशीन.
Enigma, correct, correct. So nobody else has seen it?
सर हाफ देखी थी, फिर बंद कर दी, फिर देखी नहीं दोबारा फिर.
क्यों? You didn't like it so much that you couldn't watch it?
सर I didn't like the atmosphere.
What atmosphere? अच्छा, okay, okay,
सर फील.
fine. Hmm. So, so in that movie, so that is the part where Alan Turing discovers and tries to answer. If a machine is coding, then only machine can reply, because a repetitive job cannot be done faster than a machine by a human being. So you can't be faster than a machine. So he wanted to answer a machine by a machine. And that was the starting of computers. If you watch that movie, I do not know if they have discussed about it, but for artificial intelligence, the test, one of the basic tests of checking whether or not something has got an artificial intelligence is called Turing test. Is anyone aware of it? What is Turing test?
Yes sir. Sir, but in that test it is something like that artificial intelligence is confronted with a person. Then
Yes.
if human agrees that it is not an artificial intelligence, then it passes the Turing test.
Yeah. So you don't like this test or what? Because I feel disagreement in your voice.
सर ठीक ही सर, मतलब
Hmm?
सर क्राइटेरिया सर ठीक ही है वैसे. सर इट्स ओके.
Fine, fine. So, so what is the major difference, Gaurav, between low cycle fatigue and high cycle fatigue? Of course, you are true that in low cycle fatigue, there will be low number of cycle before failure. And high cycle fatigue, there will be more number of cycles. Apart from that, is there any major difference? Unika, is there any major difference?
So I think in one of them there is a plastic deformation, and in low cycle fatigue there is plastic deformation, and in high cycle fatigue there is elastic deformation.
So why there is plastic deformation in low cycle fatigue?
So because this number of cycles are low, then it would.
Would?
So I don't
Would
remember.
what? No, it is not about remembering. It is about thinking. Why?
सर
Yeah.
yield strength से ज्यादा फोर्स
Max
लगता है.
was greater the yield strength.
क्यों लगता है ज्यादा? क्यों लगता है ज्यादा?
So stresses are high, and maybe that's why.
Why stresses are high?
सर सरफेस से ओरिजिनेट होता है उसमें, तो सही क्यों?
सरफेस से ओरिजिनेट होता है, इसलिए क्या? इसलिए स्ट्रेस हाई होता है?
हाइपरबोलिक कर्व होता है सर, तो साइकिल और स्ट्रेस कांस्टेंट होना चाहिए.
पहले कर्व आया कि पहले एक्सपेरिमेंट आया? ये जो कर्व है, this curve is, how many experiments do you think will be required to make this curve?
More than 10,000.
Yeah. So at least 20, 30,000 experiments might have happened, at least. before this curve was generated?
Sir, अगर high cycle fatigue, if a substance is going is there in place, it is not breaking in high cycle fatigue, then it should have been broken in start also.
Yeah? Can
सर
you
मतलब
explain again?
अगर वो हाई साइकिल फटीग पे अगर
हाँ,
कोई सब्सटेंस सरवाइव कर रहा है
हाँ,
तो वो वहां तक जा रहा है तो ऑब्वियसली उसमें इतना डिफॉर्मेशन हो नहीं रहा होगा,
हाँ,
तो अगर मतलब तो उस पे स्ट्रेसेस ऑब्वियसली कम पड़ रहे हैं.
correct, correct. So if you want something to break after a long time, then stress is lower. You don't apply that much stress. If you want to break something in a very small time or very less number of cycle, then you apply more stresses. So कम साइकिल में तोड़ना है तो ज्यादा स्ट्रेस लगा दो, और ज्यादा नंबर ऑफ साइकिल में तोड़ना है तो कम स्ट्रेस लगा दो. Although this is not how commercial aspect of it works. So for research point of view, why will you generate this curve? You will generate this curve because you want to know what happens if I apply higher stress. Higher stress meaning higher delta sigma or delta mean, one of these. So what happens if I apply higher stress? What happens if I apply lower stress? Does the behavior change or not? That will be the question to answer. Researchers would do tests at every possible delta sigma or sigma mean. That will be the researcher's approach. And industrial approach would be simply this, that in my industry, the component is under so and so load. And I just want to know whether or not my component will fail in 10 years, or is it safe for me to use it in 10 years. Industry is not bothered sometimes also whether the component should be used for 10 years or not. They just want to know what is the life of it. So if they know, let's say for 2 years, the component is good, then they will use it for 2 years, and without thinking, without checking, they will replace it after 2 years. Yeah. So for that reason, you conduct this test. Sometimes you don't conduct the test because if the material is so commercial that many people have done the experiments on this, then then you can apply some empirical relationship and you can probably know what should be the so 2n to the power c. So you can define low cycle fatigue with this equation. You remember this equation? No? Forgotten? What is it called, Saharsh? What is the name of this equation, Saharsh?
The name I've forgotten, but I remember the low cycle fatigue.
Ishika,
Yes, sir.
remember this equation?
Yes, sir. I was studying the theory yesterday, sir. Coffin-Mason equation, sir.
Yes, yes. Very good. So we performed just before the beginning of the test, you saw the video last time. You wrote the summary of it, and I am very happy with the recording. Although it was a pre-record, it was not live. But this machine was And also this experiment was something which was performed at a higher temperature. So this was the first experiment which happened at higher temperature. And this machine is the newest machine, and this machine is a little sophisticated, little complicated because there are too many instrumentations there. Also, there are different instrumentation possible. So you saw the extensometer, which is in contact, and an extensometer which remains in contact has its own issues. So there are now contactless extensometer, which works on digital image correlation technique. So basically optical things. So you don't need to really touch the specimen and you can measure the strain based on the images or image processing. And that is better because the extensometer survives. So it is not under harsh environment, extensometer itself. And other instrumentations have also changed. And so if you pay more, you get more sophisticated machine, but this is I think one of the best we have got so far. And it was also explained in the video, I think, in my opinion, in a better way. The machine part, the experimental part. The user interface part is not so important. Why it is not so important? Because it changes. Although when you are performing the test, that user interface is the most important thing. Because if you put any wrong value there, you will break the machine of 1.5 crores or whatever is the cost of it. But user interface thing changes based on, so if you have a machine from different manufacturer, you will have different user interface, but the basic informations will remain the same. So how much is the gauge length? How much is the cross-sectional area? What is the temperature? The thermal input, so the input of the furnace in the channel will be shown on the user interface. You need to know when you want to start the test. You need to know, should you make the displacement 0 before starting the test? You should. And what is the condition you are trying to apply? So are you making it strain? So are you providing a strain amplitude or stress? So sigma max, sigma mean, are you defining, or are you defining epsilon maximum and epsilon minimum? Yeah. So this is how it will start. So this is your epsilon max, and this is your epsilon minimum, right? And in the next cycle, if it is a strain hardening material, right? So to reach the same amount of strain, it will require more stress. Right. So this is how it will keep on making the hysteresis loop. And this, so in the experiment, what we performed, we have made it strain controlled experiment. So the boundary conditions are epsilon max and epsilon mean. So strain is applied and force changes. So you will see in the experiment that the curve of a strain versus time. So strain increases, then decreases. So this is your epsilon max, this is your epsilon min, and it keeps on doing that over and over again for the number of cycles you have. But the force will be changing not in this way. This is what you are applying. So this is why it changes in this fashion, because you have defined the strain rate also. So the slope of it is del epsilon by del t, and that is the strain rate. So the whole behavior also changes if you change this thing, because strain rate is simply means that this much amount of deformation is given in such and such amount of time. If you don't give much time, diffusion will not happen. If you give much time, diffusion will happen. We conducted this test at 550 degrees Celsius, so diffusion should not be an issue, but of course, there can be inertial effect if you increase this thing to a very higher value. So because we are fixing this, the boundary condition of strain application is going to be like this. It is not going to change, right? It is not going to change. But forces, you will see, will be changing. So, because forces we are not applying, forces is coming, is measured by the load cell, and that is a response to the strain. So I've drawn it in a, not exactly how it will look like, but it will not be in the triangular shape. This is what I wanted to convey. Right? Okay, so today in today's experiment, you will see a link on Google Classroom for the remaining part of the experiment, where you will see the test is going on and what information you are getting on the screen, and then the test will stop. You will see basically on the screen, you will see this hysteresis loop. This hysteresis loop looks very good for metallic materials. You will not be able to fathom the differences between different cycles because it will be overlapping on each other. So you will not see this difference. And once there is a damage in low cycle fatigue, which will lead to failure very soon, once you see the damage, you will also see a difference in the hysteresis loop. Because, as I said, also in monotonic loading, you have the compliance changing. So there is one difference which in the video there was a discussion about it in the part 1. So what happens is that initially you have a slope of stress strain curve which is elastic modulus. And then, so this is for monotonic loading. And then you have strain hardening and so on, and this goes on like this. If you unload it at different sections, then the unloading curve gives you the same slope of this line, of the initial line, only the unloading part. But once there is a damage, this slope changes. Okay, and we were discussing also in MM 311 about damage and why this slope changes. So the reason for this slope change is not exactly reality, because it is not actually the elastic modulus which is changing. It is the load bearing capacity of the material which is changing, and that is causing the net change in the slope of the curve, although the real elastic modulus is a material property and that is not going to change. Does it make sense, or you are getting confused now? So let me make it a little more clearer. This concept comes from CDM, continuum damage mechanics, which was given by Lemaitre. And the idea is simply this, that you have a piece of material which is good, there is no problem in it, and then you apply a force on it, and there is an area, and that area is A, and then stress at any point or any surface is F by A, right? So this is the definition of stress. This is the definition of Cauchy stress. Because we are in the deformed configuration, if we put the area in the reference configuration, that will be my engineering stress. Okay. But what if there is now damage in the material? What happens then? So in the same cylinder, you deformed it to so and so extent that now there are voids there. What will happen now? I'm applying, let's say, the same amount of force, but the area which was bearing the load has now decreased. So now I have a different area, A dash. And let us say that this area is of course smaller than the initial area A. I mean, not initial area A naught, but at the same amount of deformation, I had A, but in this case, I will not have A. I will have a little lesser than A now because there are some voids in it, right? So maybe I can write it like this. Yeah. So this area, which is this one, is a little smaller value than A, depending upon how much surface is taken away because of the voids. So what will be the stress now? Will be force divided by A dash, and that will be force divided by 1 minus omega into A, and that will be equal to, so this part is sigma. So that is sigma divided by 1 minus omega. So let us call it sigma D. So sigma D is sigma because of damage. So sigma because of damage is sigma divided by 1 minus W. What will be my elastic modulus? Elastic modulus usually is sigma divided by epsilon. Usually it is the slope. So it is delta sigma divided by delta epsilon. Okay, or I can write it d sigma by d epsilon. And if d sigma is very, very small, then I can also do it like this. If in the tensorial form, I can do it in a different way, but let's keep it simple. So elastic modulus is the slope between sigma and epsilon only in the elastic region, not in the elastic plastic region. So now what is sigma? So if my initial elastic modulus was E, what is my elastic modulus in the damaged case? Elastic modulus will be sigma divided by epsilon into 1 minus omega. Yeah, because now I should have this stress, which is sigma divided by 1 minus omega and epsilon. So this will become initial elastic modulus divided by 1 minus omega, right?
Sir,
No, there is some mistake. Yeah.
so the force we apply is a facial on the facial area only. Because sir, if voids are then we do not consider the curved surface area of the void.
Very good. So let us stick to 2D effect. We will come to 3D a little later. Okay. So this is a huge topic. Damage is a huge topic. Why I'm discussing this? Because we in the LCF video there was a discussion where it was conveyed that elastic modulus changes in the damage, but elastic modulus is a material property and it will not change. But you will find a lot of people saying the same thing over and over again, that elastic modulus changes. Why they say it? Because the slope of this curve changes. It in many ways represents the stiffness. So there are terms which people get confused by: stiffness, compliance, and elastic modulus. Elastic modulus is a material property. Stiffness or elastic modulus is also can be written in the form of tensor. So E, what we usually write as 200 gigapascal, is not a tensor. If you remember, when we talk about CIJKL, the fourth rank tensor, when we were discussing stress strain in the elastic region. So because stress is second order tensor, strain is second order tensor. So the slope between them, or the relation factor between them, which is in this case it is E, and if I write it opposite, then it will become C, or it's just a symbol. So this is a fourth ranked tensor. And if you remember, if you do not apply symmetry and strain compatibility and equilibrium forces, then you should have 81 components. And when you reduce it by applying different E's we had, if you remember, we proved that delta sigma ij divided by delta epsilon ij into delta epsilon ji is equal to delta 2 sigma ji divided by delta epsilon ij delta epsilon ji. Also, we proved that sigma ji is equal to sigma ij and epsilon ji is equal to epsilon ij because of symmetry, right? So using all these criterias, we reduced 81 components to basically 2 components in a cubic crystal. And it has to be a cubic crystal to get this reduction. And that is elastic modulus basically and Poisson's ratio. So when you write the stress relationship with the strain, then we actually make a matrix which has E by 1 minus 2 mu, I think, and 0, 0, and 1. Well, I don't remember exactly the formula here. And I think here it's 1 by mu, 1 by mu, 1 by mu, something like this. So this might be incorrect here. But what I want to say is it's not simply sigma is one value which is equal to elastic modulus one value into epsilon one value. It is not a scalar calculation. It is in tensor and you have this. So this property, this E is a property. Okay. E singularly is not defining this whole thing. It is defined by a combination of E and Poisson's ratio, and Poisson's ratio is also a constant, is also a property. Elastic modulus is also a property. What is changing here? What is changing here is not E. The slope of the curve is changing. The slope of the curve changes doesn't mean the material is changing. It simply means that material is losing its capacity to hold the force. And that's why the slope is changing. And I'm explaining you by this concept that how people formulate this, that E is changing and how that E is different from the Young's modulus. If you really have to measure Young's modulus or elastic modulus, you have to perform an ultrasonic test of it. So Young's modulus is the property which comes because of the atom sitting at different places and maintaining an equilibrium distance between each other. So that is why it is a material property. But here the slope is changing because of this assumption that if I have so and so voids, then the area is changing. That is being reciprocated in stress. And here, because I'm writing, let us not write, so here I made a mistake. So if I have to write elastic modulus for the damaged part, ED, then that will be sigma D divided by epsilon. And sigma D is equal to, no, So the elastic modulus, this one, if I have to write, will be equal to sigma divided by epsilon. Sigma is equal to sigma D. Yeah. So sigma is equal to, this is elastic modulus. So this is equal to sigma D into 1 minus omega divided by epsilon. And E is equal to, and this part is epsilon D, ED into 1 minus omega. Right. So when damage increases, I do not know. I think there is something wrong here. So this omega is the damage parameter, and this starts from 0, meaning no damage, and goes to 1, meaning the complete failure has happened. So when this value will be increasing, this value will be decreasing. And when this is decreasing, then the net elastic modulus is actually decreasing, right? And this is why you have the slope which decreases with time, with deformation, with damage. So damage starts somewhere here, let's say. So before that, omega has a value of 0. So E is equal to ED. And once you start going away, so once the damage has started, omega has increased from 0, is higher than 0, and it is lower than 1. So I should write it like this. And that's when epsilon starts decreasing because of the damage effect. So this effect is coming because of such mathematics here. And what Gunika was saying is true. So this cannot be experimentally measured. So the exact values cannot be experimentally measured, and this is where the modeling comes. What she was saying is that if you take any area, so the definition of stress always needs an area and the direction of area. So force is applied like this. If you take somewhere here cube, then on this cube you can again define your own coordinate axis, or if you don't want to, so this is your global coordinate axis. Then you rotate this element on this coordinate axis, and if you rotate it, you have to transform stresses. You remember how we did it? So how we had defined sigma xx, sigma yy, sigma zz, and sigma xy. If you are in plane strain, sigma xz. How they rotate, they will rotate as an effect of rotation angle theta. So we have done this in the last semester. If you remember Moore's circle, you rotate by certain angle and how these things will change. So what you can do is you can take this cube and you can define the stresses there, rotate, apply the effect of theta by which you have to change the coordinate axis, and each area of this face, and this piece is and each area will be defining the stresses. So stresses are changing based on the definition of area here. So whatever area you take, the value of stress corresponds to that. Force is not changing because I'm applying this force, and this force, let's say, is constant. So I'm not changing the force, but stress is changing. And why it is changing? Because of my selection of area, it is changing. Okay. So the real independent of my selection of area. So damage will be in the form of voids, which can be irregular void or coalesced voids. So they have a they are a three-dimensional entity. If I choose it to cut it here, and I take this area to define my stress, then on this area, the damage which I had also goes deep, but on this area, I have only this part. So I am taking only this much effect of the void. Although, so if you take another section a little lower than this, you will have different A dash, because you will be taking a different section of it. If you take a plane like this, you will have a different section of it. So you will have different omega value. So omega value will be compromised because of the simple assumption for transforming 3D into 2D. Because of that, you will have a lot of issues in the calculation of omega. Also, experimentally, this problem happens. So we will not go in damage mechanics today, but this is just to explain you why a lot of people think that elastic modulus changes, but elastic modulus is a material property And what is changing really is the load bearing capacity, and why that is changing can be represented in the form of damage. And this is what you will see also in the hysteresis loop, that once damage starts, a little failure, you will see a difference in the hysteresis loop. Hysteresis loop is a combination of stress strain diagram in going in the direction of sigma max or epsilon max, and then in the reverse direction. So if you combine these two, it becomes one cycle. So you go up and down, that is one cycle, and in this cycle you form a hysteresis loop in the stress strain diagram, and that is what you will see. There are some tasks given to you. So this part is where you have to pay attention. So the video is shared on Classroom for the second part of the LCF test, and the data will be shared with you. And and there are some tasks given to you on the Google Classroom, also in the form of an assignment. So you will be writing the lab report for the LCF. LCF part 1 you have to submit today. LCF part 2 will be the total experiment of LCF part 1 plus LCF part 2. But LCF part 1 you will be submitting today, so you can submit the remaining part. What you have to write in the remaining part is given in the instruction. So apart from writing the results and the calculations which are being asked to you to perform, there are some questions which you have to answer. Also in the same report, you do not have to write a crux of the video today, so you don't have to submit anything on LCF part 2 today. LCF part 1 you have to submit yes. LCF part 2 you have to submit today, no. LCF part 2 you have to submit on next Wednesday. Is this clear? Any question?
Yes, sir. LCF part 1.
Yeah, Ashish?
So there are 2 LCF part 1 assignments. Like
Yeah,
lab.
so one was the crux. One was that you saw the video and you write what you saw in the video as a summary of it within 24 hours. I think you couldn't do it in 24 hours, so that date was postponed, but that was the part which was the crux part. And then the second part is the lab report. You understand? You watch a video, write a summary. That is not lab report.
Sir,
That is-
so
yeah?
sir, some of us may have submitted the crux. So,
Come again. In the lab report, you have submitted the crux.
sir, in the first part we have submitted the crux.
Why?
Sir, you asked us to submit the summary last lab. Sir, so we have submitted the last lab summary. And in
Yeah,
the
but did I also ask you to write the summary in the lab report?
no, sir, not in the lab report. Just only the summary part. In the second, the which was posted on, I think around March 2. On March 2, it was written that see the instructions posted on the stream of 24th.
Yeah.
Sir, so in that there are no answers as you were speaking. There are not.
Okay. Let us see. Are you confusing me or I'm confusing you guys?
Sir, in first part, I think we just have to write experimental setup and all.
Yes. Exactly. And I think I have written that. So let us go to stream, and where was our? So this was on Feb 24. Yeah. You can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir. Sir, but you also said that there are some other questions we need to answer. So I don't. Sir, you just
It is
said.
for part 2, LCF.
Wait, Ashish, don't get confused.
Okay, sir.
Let us not get confused. So I hope I'm audible. I'm increasing my voice now. We are now talking about LCF part 1. LCF part 1, which happened on Feb 24, and for which you have to submit the report today. Okay? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
We are talking about we are talking about LCF part 1. This was the instruction. Yeah, just let me finish. So these are the instructions which was posted on Feb 24, and was about LCF part 1. Okay, here it is written that this will be part 1 of the LCF experiment. So the first instruction is write the lab report on this experiment comprising introduction and experimental setup. There is no result, there is no summary or calculation part in it, just the introduction and the experimental setup. You will call it part 1 of the LCF experiment. This report with introduction and experimental setup should be submitted by next Wednesday, which is 3rd March, which is today, by 11:59 p.m. Okay, I hope it is clear.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is clear.
And second instruction is write a crux of the experimental procedure explained in the video in approximately 300 words in a Word file and submit it on Google Classroom by tonight, meaning 24th Feb, 11:59 p.m. So this is not lab report. This had to be submitted on the same day. And this had to be submitted after 1 week in the form of a lab report, only writing introduction and experimental setup part. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, sir. Now it is.
So where will you submit this? You will submit this in here, LCF part 1 lab report. LCF part 1, this one is for the crux. Okay, any confusion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Now,
Since
yeah,
we have already submitted that, which was due on 25th Feb.
yes, so you have submitted the summary.
Yes, sir.
What you have to submit is the lab report, including, so read the instructions again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understood.
Okay. And today you will have the remaining part of the experiment, which we will call LCF part 2. Okay. And here you have to write the lab report, including experimental details like what is the material, what was the test temperature, what was the loading condition. Loading condition means how much strain was applied, that you can find out from the experimental data shared with you, results and summary. Then in the results, you have to do following. Plot the hysteresis loop for all the cycles, calculate the yield strength in 10 cycles from the beginning, calculate the elastic modulus for all the cycles in a tabular form and plot the same. Then you will be writing what? You will be writing experimental detail, results and tasks. In the task, you will write answers to these questions. The questions are, is the material strain hardening and softening? What difference do you expect if the test was performed at room temperature? What do you think the hysteresis loop changes just before failure? Why do you think so? Okay, so these are the questions which you will be answering in the lab report. This time in LCF part 2, we are talking about LCF part 2. In LCF part 2, you don't have to write a summary. You don't have to submit anything for LCF part 2 today or tomorrow. The lab report of this you have to submit by 10th March, 11:59. Okay. And about the submission on Google Classroom, try to be at least half an hour. Try to submit things half an hour before, so that you don't have time lag and late submission and all those issues. Is there any doubt? Do you have any confusion related to LCF part 1, part 2, lab report, summary, anything?
Sir,
No, sir.
I wanted to confirm one thing. So
Yeah.
the answers, the questions which you have posted, do they need to be answered in the same order? Because in the previous CHARPY test report, what I did was I answered some of the question in the introduction, some in other places, so that a correct flow could be maintained. And besides it, I mentioned that this was the question number.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
The order you can change. But
Will these questions should be separated? For example, if I'm writing introduction,
yeah. So this is what I'm saying. So there is no compulsion on having the order, but whenever you are explaining, if you are explaining in your own way, you want to explain the answer somewhere else, then you must mention that this is the answer to the question number 1 or question number 2A which has been asked. You can do this. But I think better would be that you keep a separate section for questionnaire, and there you answer all 3 questions, because it is not only good for you to keep it separate from the flow of what you are writing, it is also good to grade, because that section is different. So I will just see the answers and I will grade it accordingly. But again, there is no compulsion. If you feel that you can write it in a better way, if you write it continuously, randomly placing the answers somewhere, just inform that. So just write that this part, this paragraph also answers question number 2A. So that should also be good enough.
So in
So
the
you can do,
previous
yeah.
lab report, so
Mhm.
I have written the answer of the differences between the 2 Charpy and Azure test in the theory part, and the rest of the answers I have written in results and discussion. So I think it would not make any issue.
No,
Okay, sir.
it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But have you mentioned that this is the answer?
No, sir.
Fine, but from now on, you should mention. If there are questions separately, you can write it anywhere in the lab report, but mention wherever that answer is, mention that this is the answer for the question which has been asked.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other confusion? Gaurav, have I answered your doubts? You asked me 2 things, huh?
Yes, sir.
So I answered both.
एक ही था सर, this only.
अच्छा, एक ही था, ठीक. Fine then. So you see the video, and there the experimental data is not there yet. I will put it. If I don't put it, somebody can remind me, but I will put it today. So you will have the data, and then you can. And also one thing, that don't plot it in a very rough way. It should look good. So the axis should be defined in a clear way. And if you're writing stress, write S capital and place the units there. And if you're plotting, let's say, elastic modulus, you can make a legend, and legend should not call it series 1, it should call it elastic modulus. So there are some uniqueness, some features of plotting, and if you plot it in a good way, then it looks good. So giving marks becomes easier. If you plot it in a very rough way, nobody wants to look at it. Also, it is about anything, any presentation. So writing is a kind of presentation, plotting is a presentation, talking is a presentation. So decorate it in that way. Okay?
Sir, and about the formatting, we were supposed to keep it at 11, size of 11. So,
Yeah.
Sir, title should be larger.
Yeah. One of the reports which I found was the one which I wanted. And I still found a lot of reports which were not so good. So I think I explained it in impact testing, little before impact testing. Yeah, it looks like that. So I've opened Ashish and Gaurav. But there was one, so you see this, Ishika, Shahar, Pranjal, all of you have same picture, and I don't even have to open it. You can see the screen, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is Bala. Bala, what you have written is good. I mean, it looks good. I have not read it yet, but the formatting is good. It is not too graphic. Yeah, okay. Okay. So it is good. ये यहाँ पे ये चित्रकारी करना जरूरी नहीं है. So the first page, what you can really write is your name, your number and the lab. So you can write at lab report or lab number 3 and lab number 3 impact testing report by this, and keep everything free. So it wouldn't matter if there is a lot of space on the first page. Yeah, so impact देने की जरूरत नहीं है, although it is on impact test. And गौरव मौर्य ने ऐसा लग रहा है देख के कि बहुत सारे फॉन्ट यूज किया है. लेट अस सी. या सो गौरव, दिस इज वेरी eye paining because of such contrasting font kept placed just next to each other. So why do you do this kind of colorfulness? Is to attract attention, right? If you write something in a very contrasting font, it attracts attention of the reader or audience or whatever, and so it means you want focus on it. And then you're writing in bold, not bold, sorry, I think it is bold, also in capital. इतना attention की जरूरत नहीं है फर्स्ट पेज पे. ओके गौरव, सुन रहे हो? हेलो हेलो गौरव, क्या चला गया गौरव? दिख तो नहीं रहा है. So others also can think about it, that this much is not required. Rest is okay. ये पिक्चर कहाँ से मिला? ये पिक्चर सबके रिपोर्ट में है. इशिका, कहाँ से मिला ये?
Sir, I googled for Sharpie impact test.
अच्छा, चलो गूगल करते हैं. Sharpie impact test. So
go to the
images. पहला ही उठा लिया. ठीक है.
Sir, now I'll not use images, sir.
नहीं, लेकिन सबने वही इमेज उठाई है. इमेज यूज करना, यू कैन यूज, देयर इज नो इशू, यू कैन यूज इट. ये मशीन के ऊपर जो छोटा सा 1 लिखा हुआ है वो क्या है पता है? ये छोटा सा 1 है, वो क्या है?
Sir, link होता है उस.
हाँ, या तो वो रेफरेंस है या तो वो फुटनोट है, और दोनों ही नहीं दिया गया है. अच्छा, यहाँ रेफरेंस दिया है, बट does it mean that? Is it from this? पर इसमें वो इमेज है क्या? ये क्या है? नहीं, मैं एड ब्लॉकर नहीं डिसेबल कर सकता. Fine, maybe it is the same reference. Okay. All right. So good. So that is the only comment on lab report, that keep it less impact. ज़्यादा देने का जरूरत नहीं है. At least on cover page पे ज़्यादा देने का जरूरत नहीं है. Don't write it in capitals. Okay. So the one which I like is Balakrishna has written good. This one is probably the best one. I have not seen all. But this is from Ashish, no? So this is what I want. Simple, readable, not so much graphic. So this is good. This is good. So you keep the caption centered. You keep, so table का जो caption होता है usually table के ऊपर होता है, figure का caption figure के नीचे होता है. These are some protocols. Hard and fast rule नहीं है. But अगर आप इस field में रहते हो, so this is the protocol which everyone follows. So human is a form of sheep with a little brain. So we always follow each other without thinking. So this is what we do. No, this was sarcasm. So you should put table caption on the top of the table and figure caption at the bottom of the figure, centered. Table caption usually is left aligned. But this report I like because my eyes are happy to see not so much colors, not so much bold capital letters, oranges and blue and this and that. Yeah, so this is how it would be better. It is not actually required, so you don't have to do it because your name and everything is already there in the class. Write all those redundant information. Okay, so this is how you should write.
Sir, in last lab report, I got 7, sir. Where was
Which lab report? Tensile?
Sir, tensile? In hardness, I got 8, and in the tensile report, the second part, the second report, I got 7.
Tensile, I messaged you, no? Tensile, you have to discard all the marks.
Yes, sir. Sir, and then only about hardness. Sir, where was like what
What are you
should I
saying?
have?
So you got 8, you are not happy with it. This is what you're saying.
Sir, I wanted to know where I could have written.
Acha.
If
Fine,
I have
fine.
written less, I have written it more.
Yeah. So we will discuss all this. See, lab report ka marks jo hai, let me see it again. Hardness, tensile, I will reevaluate, and others also I will reevaluate. So we have 3 more weeks. So maybe in one of the sessions we will just do this. So we will discuss the marks on the lab report. Okay. So this is what we will do.
Sir, and what is the marking scheme for? Will these reports come all combined? Will give 100% of the marks, or will there be something else?
नहीं, लैब रिपोर्ट पे कितना मार्क्स असाइन किया हुआ है?
Sir, total. Sir,
बताओ।
grading scheme. Sir,
हाँ।
grading scheme मिस मैंने लिखी नहीं थी।
ग्रेडिंग स्कीम होनी चाहिए ना क्लासरूम पे, ये है ना ग्रेडिंग स्कीम।
ओके सर।
So,
सर किसी एक
इस पे लैब रिपोर्ट पे 30% है। क्या डाउट है
ओके
तुम्हारा?
सर, किसी एक की तो मिसिंग थी, या तो MM311 की थी या किसी एक की थी नहीं।
अब किसी एक, मैं तो 2 ही चला रहा हूँ, तो इसमें तो लैब रिपोर्ट 30% है, ठीक है।
ओके सर।
अब MM311 में देख लेते हैं क्या है। MM311 पे कोर्स वैल्यूएशन स्कीम, so ये तो मैकेनिकल बिहेवियर है। So maybe in the first lecture or somewhere it should be there. Why I don't have it? Okay, but it should be there, no? MM311 we have explained.
Sir, you once said that Prince sir is the coordinator, so he
Oh yes, okay, now I understand. Yeah, so MM311 I have not explained then. This is why I don't have it, because I am not the coordinator for that course. So lab report pay, so he has not shared the course details with you so far.
Sir, it is same 30%, sir.
It has been shared with you?
सर स्लाइड्स में दिखाए थे तो हम लिख दिए।
अच्छा, ठीक है। I will ask him to share it because there was something which was missing probably in the course evaluation scheme was the project part. So in MM308, which is theory part of it, there we are giving you a problem, and that problem will carry some marks on it, right? And the same will happen in the lab part. So lab part, there will be a problem. I have given you the problem. That problem you will be presenting at the end, and that should carry 20% of the total marks. So that is a huge thing. So you have to dedicate a lot of time and effort on solving the problem which has been given to you. And this is why I gave you in the very beginning, although it was the planning was to divide it half semester, but we have divided into full courses. So full semester is given to you to think about it. Okay. And so far I have not received any questions, any queries or what this problem is, how are we supposed to approach towards this, and what do you expect and all this. Nobody has asked anything. I'm hoping that you will ask at the very end day, either to postpone it or to, so all the questions will arise in your mind on the very last day. But you should be thinking that it has 20% marks, and it is a huge thing. For one course, 20% is a huge thing. Yeah.
Sir, it is a theory course, so we need to model it. But
No. See, so again, let me say it again. There is a problem. There will be a problem. There is a problem which will be given to you, which is given to you. Okay, let me say it again. Let us talk about the modeling and simulation theory course. Okay, modeling and simulation theory course. In modeling and simulation theory course, there will be a problem which will be given to you by Dr. Prince. This problem you have to give a solution to. A mathematical solution, a modeling solution, numerical solution. What kind of solution will be told to you by Dr. Prince? Because that will be his problem. And what kind of solution he is looking for has to be explained by him, and he will explain it to you. If he has not explained it to you, he will. You should ask, because that it carries a lot of marks. One problem will be given to you. So far we spoke about modeling and simulation theory course. This 20% is the total percentage of the marks which you will be getting in the theory course. Now let us talk about the lab course, modeling and simulation lab course. In this course, I will give you a problem. And this problem, you will have to give a solution. You can give a solution in the form of theory. You can give a solution in the form of modeling. You can give a solution in the form of any way you like, but you should ask me what I'm expecting from you. You should ask me more details maybe on the model, on the problem. So what problem I have given you is, how will you define, let's say, the brittle fracture of a BCC alloy in the at lower temperature. Usually it fractures in a brittle way, and I have also explained to you that there will be some particles on the crack front, and these number of particles will define when the material will fail. Because if you have too many number of particles, then it will fail very easily, very early. If you have only one particle or no particle, it will take some time to fail. So there is some probability going on here. Some statistical nature is there. And this is what you have to model. This is what you have to give a solution to, that how will you define brittle fracture in such condition. So you have to model it. What I am expecting is a mathematical model from you. So you give me an equation which defines it, which solves it. If you want, you can give me a numerical approach also. You understand? If you want more details on this, yeah.
So will probability be the input of the mathematical model?
No, I would like to know that what is the probability that my material will fail under certain load. So then I will be very happy, no? So if I know that the probability of failing is more than 50%, I will not use it.
No, sir. I was asking about the probability of having cracks in the material, like the amount of cracks which are possible in the material. Will these be the input?
this information will not be with you.
Okay, sir.
How many number of cracks, so small crack, micro crack will be there? Instead of answering that question, try to ask that under what circumstances micro cracks will generate. What should be the criteria mathematically to describe that now the micro crack will be there? What will change into a micro crack? If there is no micro crack, what will change into it? What will transform to a micro crack? And can you set a criteria on that? A little hint would be what we discussed today about damage. So try to see it in that way. So you have a small piece of material and you have some voids, but this is happening in ductile material, of course, and we were talking about brittle fracture in the problem. So in ductile fracture, you have a lot of voids, and that plays an important role in defining how the stress will change, how the elastic modulus will change, and so on and so forth. So that could help as a little hint on solving this problem. If you want more detail, you have to ask me. If you don't ask me, I will not give it to you. But at the end, whether or not you ask me, you will have to present the solution. So if you're not asking me, I believe that you are looking for the solution. You are searching yourself, or you are thinking in a different way, right? And this problem, which I have given you, will carry 20% marks of the lab course. So don't get confused that this 2020 will become in one course, and one course will be free of the problem solution and presentation part. No. In both lab and theory, you have one problem and 20% in these two. So I hope this is clear.
Sir, and what temperature is considered as lower compared to?
Lower than ductile to brittle transition temperature. Temperature you can take arbitrary. You don't have to give me a value because you're going to model it mathematically, right? So what temperature would be lower? The answer would be that temperature is lower where the material will fail in brittle fracture. So there will be no ductile crack, no ductile damage. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If you want a value, the value will depend upon the type of material you are using. If you are using 9-chrome-1 molybdenum type of steel, then this temperature will be somewhere minus 100 degrees Celsius. If you change the material, this temperature will change. But the values are not important mathematically. You have to make a general model which works on any BCC alloy, which shows this kind of brittle fracture, or maybe magnesium, maybe anything which breaks in a brittle way, maybe concrete. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So then we end the session today. Watch the video, absorb it. It's not a long video today. And then too much effort will be required to analyze the data. So video will not take much time. So just watch it and the data will be there, and have fun with other courses also. Okay? Then we will meet on Friday in MM311. Okay. 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 Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So